Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. It's time to watch Chicago PD again after a disappointing few years. Chicago PD has had a disappointing few seasons, but season 12 has corrected many of the problems, making the procedural worth watching again. When it originally premiered, Chicago PD was the best one Chicago show. It focused on the lengths Hank Voight, Jason Begg, was willing to go to keep Chicago safe and get justice for crime victims. However, in recent years, the series backed off of letting Voight push the envelope, turning it into a run-of-the-mill procedural when television is oversaturated with them. Chicago PD Season 12 introduced Patrol Officer Kiana Cook, Toya Turner, marking the first time a patrol officer was involved in the action since Burgess, Marina Squirciati, was promoted in Season 4. Cook was promoted quickly, joining the intelligence unit within a few episodes. However, the addition of this new character coincided with other changes that are helping making Chicago PD watchable again, such as introducing a new villain for Voight to butt heads with while he bends the rules in the name of justice. The early seasons of Chicago PD offered a more nuanced perspective on police work. While Voight often crossed ethical lines, the series made an effort to demonstrate the reasons he felt he needed to do so. Additionally, more aspects of police work were shown thanks to the inclusion of patrol officers who often worked with the intelligence unit. However, that began to change when Atwater, Leroyce Hawkins, was promoted at the end of Season 1. The patrol officer aspect disappeared after Season 4, when Burgess was promoted, but the more concerning problem in recent years has been the number of high-profile character exits. Characters like Antonio Dawson, John Seda, Jay Halstead, Jesse Lee Soffer, and Haley Upton, Tracy Spiridakos, all exited the series, leaving large holes in the Chicago PD cast and making it harder to invest in the show. Furthermore, stories became more formulaic, and the later seasons of Chicago PD often relied on the cops getting into extreme danger, culminating with Voight being kidnapped by a serial killer. These issues have resulted in declining ratings. Chicago PD has been steadily losing viewers since Season 8, and the current season's ratings are the worst yet. It's unfortunate that Season 12 has lower ratings than the previous seasons via TV series finale, as the series seems to have finally gotten back on track. But these low ratings are likely a reflection of the disappointing stories in Season 11 and the loss of Chicago PD's Haley Upton. Chicago PD used to be one of the most popular of the One Chicago shows, second only to Chicago Fire. However, in the past several seasons, Chicago Med has handily beaten Chicago PD in the ratings. So far, Chicago Med Season 10 has almost 1 million viewers more than Chicago PD, via One Chicago Center. This is bad news for the police procedural, as it has always been far more popular than its medical counterpart despite being on 2 hours later. Of course, there could be several reasons for the change in ratings. Chicago Med has a new showrunner who is taking the medical series in a different direction that is likely to be interesting to viewers who were not sold on the medical drama in previous years. High-stakes stories such as Sharon's stalker arc might attract larger audiences. Still, while Chicago Med's ratings are rising and Chicago Fires are staying steady, Chicago PD is losing viewers. Thus, people choose to watch one or both of the other One Chicago shows while turning the TV off when Chicago PD comes on. While there's not much Chicago PD can do about actors choosing to leave after more than a decade with the police procedural, it can change its storytelling direction to make it more pleasing to audiences, and it has done that beautifully in Season 12. One of the best choices Chicago PD has made is adding Deputy Commissioner Charlie Reed, Sean Hatosy, as a new villain who is out to get Voight. This addition is a throwback to earlier seasons where Voight was constantly under scrutiny by higher-ups in the police department and doubled down on questionable behavior rather than playing political games. Additionally, Reed has already put Burgess in his debt by reassigning her to intelligence after she passed the detective's exam, and trying to figure out what he is up to is leaving audiences at the edge of their seats. Chicago PD Season 12 has a full cast of interesting characters, which leads to more complex cases than have been seen in recent years. Newcomer Kiana Cook offers a fresh perspective as well as adding some more diversity to the cast. She is uncomfortable with the morally gray areas Voight leads the team into, which leads to compelling conflicts. Cook helps round out a cast that now centers on Burgess and Ruzek, Patrick Fluger, as well as turning Torres, Benjamin Livy Aguilar, into a gray character who is reminiscent of Dawson. One of the most significant problems for Chicago PD is that Voight has become far too mellow. This character change was likely a reaction to real-life police brutality. Many police procedurals have backed off from the idea of justifying police violence in order to show support for real-life victims. However, it doesn't work for this show for Voight to be calm, collected, and committed to following the rules. One of the reasons this series became popular is because Voight is the perfect anti-hero, the cop who will break every rule in the book for a good cause. Thus, the most important thing Chicago PD can do to win back viewers is to restore Voight to his original character. While it's important to be sensitive to victims of police violence, Voight's cowboy persona sets Chicago PD apart from other police procedurals. Thus, he needs to be depicted as the heroic outlaw archetype that he originally was. Chicago PD has yet to find the right balance between allowing Voight to go rogue and expressing disapproval of police brutality. Season 12 has taken steps in the right direction with its Voight versus Reed story. Chicago PD also needs to avoid formulaic storytelling, as that is one of the biggest issues with recent seasons. Fortunately, the series has begun course-correcting. Adding Cook has shaken things up somewhat, and if Chicago PD returns to character-driven storytelling instead of gimmicks, such as putting cops in extreme danger, it will again become the powerful show it used to be in its early seasons. It's time to watch Chicago PD again. After a few disappointing seasons, where the storylines seemed to meander, characters lost their edge, and the gritty, raw intensity that once defined the show seemed diluted, it's hard to ignore that the fire has been reignited. Watching the latest episodes, there's this undeniable spark of excitement that whispers to the core of what made Chicago PD so compelling in the first place. For a while, fans like me were left with a feeling of frustration. The direction of the series felt unclear. What had once been a sharp, pulse-pounding look at the lives of the men and women of the intelligence unit had slowly morphed into a soap opera for the law enforcement world. Characters who once felt like real, layered individuals became caricatures of themselves, trapped in plots that didn't hold the weight they used to. The personal stakes seemed lower, and the professional ones almost non-existent. I kept tuning in, hoping for a glimmer of what the show used to be, but the satisfaction felt distant. But now, there's a noticeable shift. The show seems to have remembered its roots. It's time to fall back into the rhythm of Chicago PD with renewed fervor. There's a deeper understanding of its characters again, and that's what's pulling me back. The dynamics between characters like Hank Voight, Jay Halstead, and Kim Burgess feel organic again, and the stories are once again about real struggles. There's a level of grit and complexity that had been missing, and it's impossible to ignore how much that makes the show come alive once more. Voight in particular stands as a central force in this revitalization. For a long time, it felt like his character was walking a thin line between being a morally ambiguous antihero and just someone who pushed the boundaries of what should be acceptable for a police officer. The deeper dive into his past, his relationships with his team, and the toll that his choices have taken on him is a reminder of why we started watching in the first place. There's always been a certain unpredictable energy around Voight, and when the show leans into that darker side of his personality, it's captivating. Then there's the dynamic between the rest of the team. Jay Halstead's complicated relationship with Voight, as well as his evolving role in the unit, has become more layered than ever before. Halstead isn't just the strong, quiet type anymore. He's facing personal demons, trying to reconcile the ideal version of justice with the often ugly reality of policing. His internal struggles, played out against the backdrop of the tough cases he tackles, add an emotional weight that had been missing for a while.